It's all designed for a reason. That human beings, I believe, were created with this incredible intelligence, this incredible innate ability to grow and learn and change. And we have to give them opportunity to do that.
Hello, and welcome to Talking Toddlers, where I share more than just tips and tricks on how to reduce tantrums or build your toddler's vocabulary. We're going to cover all of that, but here, our goal is to develop clarity, because in this modern world, it's truly overwhelming. This podcast is about empowering moms to know the difference between fact and fiction, to never give up, to tap into everyday activities so your child stays on track. He's not falling behind, he's thriving through your guidance. We know that true learning starts at home. So let's get started. Hello there, and this episode will be released Thanksgiving week. So I'd like to start by taking a quick minute to truly express my appreciation for all of you, my subscribed listeners, those faithful parents and grandparents who show up each and every week, as well as my new mother and father and grandparents. So bless you all, and thanks from the bottom of my heart, because as I grow and build this community, I am excited to meet and work with all of you. So on this podcast, I talk a lot about routines and how they seem to truly anchor our little ones as they grow and develop and understand this three-dimensional world. But I'm sure you're well aware that it's important to us grown-ups to have routines as well. You know, there's a lot of chatter on the internet these days about, are you a 5 o'clock a.m. riser, or are you a late night owl? I'm sure you've heard all of that. I've always believed in morning and evening routines for myself, and then I've tried to teach others, long before the internet. But I do realize that it's forever changing, because it needs to, depending on what stage or where you're focusing on your journey, right? Are you a new mom? Are you a mom of teenagers? Are you a mom of college-age kids? It all changes. And we can talk about that more specifically at a later time. But for today's episode, I just want to highlight those bookends, right? That morning and evening routine to express gratitude, to focus on this week being Thanksgiving. I know it's an American holiday, and I do have non-American listeners, so I just send my blessings to you. But that means for me, it's been, quietly whispering in a prayer of giving thanks and giving gratitude, or writing it in my journal. I love, love, love writing. That has really guided my growth and development over all of these decades. But to really, on any given day, I feel like I can find things to be grateful for, even during the most tumultuous, whether it's simple things like freshly cleaned sheets. I love crawling into a bed with brand new clean sheets. It really makes my heart smile, and I know there are a lot of women out there that feel the same. But as well as the bigger things, right? My health, or my family and their safety, my community at large. And throughout my whole life, I've really tried to live with the perspective that the glass is half full, because I do find that I can always reach for something that I'm grateful for, whether it's new learning or the ability to communicate, to share with others, to explore new possibilities, even during the most confusing times, such as, quote unquote lockdowns. I really had to consciously focus on the simpler things. Just being able to go into my office and work with those beautiful families each and every day. My colleagues that held like-minded ideas, or simply the sun popping through after weeks, it seemed, sometimes months, in that grayness up there in Vermont during the winter months. But I want to encourage each and every one of you, if you don't already have a morning or an evening routine where you can just list on your hand, one hand or two hands, what you can be grateful for in that given moment. And as we approach the holidays and things get hectic and busy and overwhelming, try to do it first thing in the morning before you even put your feet on the floor, because I know that feeling. Once your feet hit the floor, it's full pedal to the metal. And I remember clearly saying over and over and again, my husband thought I was wacky, but I couldn't wait for my daughter to go to bed at night. And yet I couldn't wait for her to wake up in the morning. I was always torn between that excitement about being with her and the exhaustion about being with her. So give yourself a few moments this week in particular, but then carry it as your new daily habits. Be grateful for even the smallest of things, to reach for them, to hold them in your heart, to view your life, your family's life with the glass half full. Know that you're doing the best you can with what you have, and that every day is a new opportunity. I believe that from my heart of all hearts. It might sound a little woo-woo to some of you, but my faith has always carried me, especially through the darkest storms. And I've had a few, like all of us, right? We all have our own crosses to bear. But that's why we do call it blind faith, because we can't see our hand in front of our face. But I assure you, being a mother makes you stronger. Being a mother helps you find courage and strength that you never knew was inside of you. It doesn't mean that we don't feel overwhelmed or that our feet and gait are unsteady. It just means that we focus on our purpose, on our given abilities. Listen to that inner voice. Your spirit will talk to you, will guide you. So that's my little wish. Be grateful as much as you can each and every day. On this particular Thanksgiving, I'm especially grateful for each one of you. We have to admit, the past 3 years have been a wee bit extraordinary, to say the least. So I look at you new mamas, right? The ones that had to really walk this path these last 3 years with a new baby or a new toddler or a new preschooler. I commend you all because it was a bit wonky. And so I do see that we're coming on the other side, but there's a lot of disconnection still, right? And a lot of incongruent ideas. So with that, I would like to share a few announcements. Yes, my YouTube channel is up. And we are actually uploading all of the audio podcast episodes as we speak. We have started with the top 5 most downloaded. So I appreciate that from all of you because that gives me feedback of what's most important to you all. And it seems like, how do we discipline? How do we boost early talking? How do we help a child build their self-regulation skills? So those are some of the topics that you all seem to be more curious about, seeking more information. We also have episodes in video form, and I will be including both video and audio forms on that YouTube channel. And I do want to highlight that the YouTube channel is at Higher Learning, which is my business name, and Higher is spelled H-Y-E-R. That's my last name. But Talking Toddlers has been used by a variety of people across the internet. So I wanted to focus on my business, and that Talking Toddlers podcast is one track of all of that. And the new YouTube videos will also expand on more specific questions that you guys pose, demonstrate some strategies, tutorials, and then in 2024, I'm excited to announce different interviews. So as the weeks unfold, I will highlight a recent conference that I attended called Documenting Hope. And I will have their website down below. It was started by a woman named Beth Lambert, who I met several years ago up at a conference in Vermont. And her website is called Epidemic Answers, which I highly, highly recommend to anyone, whether you have children or not. But it's really just a wonderful site that will give you insight of what's happening behind the scenes, right? Off of the mainstream. But meanwhile, you could take a look at her first book, which is called A Compromised Generation. And again, I'll have a link to it. She actually wrote that back in 2010. And so here is in part what that book is all about. A Compromised Generation reveals how seemingly benign elements of American culture are making millions of children chronically ill, disabled, or dysfunctional. Children are being diagnosed with illnesses such as autism, asthma, allergies, and ADHD at a breathtaking rate. The etiology of autism continues to confound mainstream medicine, yet parents, medical researchers, and healthcare practitioners dedicated to unraveling the mystery are beginning to put the pieces of the puzzle into place. They have found that environmental factors that cause autism are the same ones causing epidemics of ADHD, juvenile diabetes, asthma, gastrointestinal disorders, and many other chronic illnesses. The book goes on to share that although each individual child's illness varies, they all have the same basic underlying causes. So A Compromised Generation provides details on how this epidemic can be reversed and how to prevent more children from becoming ill, supplying evidence that children can recover from chronic illnesses, including autism. If we are open to alternating their environmental influences and by stepping outside of the traditional Western medical paradigm. So that's pretty much what her book covers. I'm excited because this is where my path has taken me over 35 years. And I've shared a lot of this with you all. But I think it's very, very important that those of us who have been in it try to guide the new generation, you mom, you dad, you grandparents, to get in front of it. And that's what I've been doing here on this audio podcast. And now, in order to reach more people, a more expansive audience, I'm stepping into the YouTube world. So plans for 2024 are very exciting. Don't forget to subscribe. You don't want to miss any of it. And we've also scheduled a number of bonus episodes because there just seems to be too much information to cover one time per week. It's way too important. You are way too important. And your babies and toddlers, we all know they are the most important. I know you want to subscribe, so just take a minute now, rate and review here on Apple or Spotify. Plus, you can then jump on over to my YouTube channel because we're just getting started and I can't wait to do it with you at Higher Learning, HYER. And that's my website as well. And we're updating that by the end of this month as well. So with that, today's episode is actually the audio recording of my intro to the YouTube channel, how prevention is key to your baby's, toddler's health and well-being. And health and well-being has always been my highest value because without it, we're all challenged. Our load, quote unquote, to borrow it from Beth Lambert's website, Documenting Hope, she explains that the total load that we're all living with is making us crumble. So I hope you enjoy this recording and encourage you all to be some of my first subscribers. I can't wait to share what is coming around the corner, and 2024 is going to be awesome. So happy Thanksgiving and enjoy this episode.
I'm Erin Heyer from Higher Learning, and I'm so glad to be here. This Tuesday, today, I want to talk about prevention because that really is my focus. After 30 years of being in private practice and consulting with public and private schools, I've realized that there's so much more that parents need to be informed of, that parents can really get back in the driver's seat and learn how to navigate this, perhaps with a guide like myself, but that it's more and more important that parents understand what prevention really means and how early development, speech and language, motor skills, self-regulation, being able to tolerate transitions and change and growth, and all of these support cognition. And no matter what the future holds, with or without a pandemic, with or without support from your schools, that you, mom and dad and families, have the ability to give your child the best foundation so they can then thrive in any learning environment, whether it's homeschool or half and half of this hybrid, whatever happens. Because our little guys, our 1, 2, 3, and 4-year-olds, are building that foundation. And so whether you decide to continue to homeschool them or send them into a new school system, my goal is to help you know how to support, love, encourage your kids into capable, independent, happy, and healthy individuals. So it's all about prevention. And even though we have these systems, these medical systems, these school-based systems that can check off these boxes that I've mentioned before, that look at behaviors and say, oh, he looks like he is struggling with this or struggling with this diagnosis or having problems here or there. The key is 50% of those struggles can be re-managed and really realigned with his or her greater self, greater purpose. I do not expect all kids to be the same. I've always said for well over 30 years, we don't want everybody to be equally in math or equally in art or equally in sports or music or whatever they choose to be in this world. But we want to give everybody a solid foundation so then their spirit, their essence, their purpose on this planet then comes out and that they have choices, that they can communicate effectively. And then that turns into literacy skills. And that they then have an opportunity, not necessarily to write books or to become orators, but to really have that choice that they can use that medium, literacy, which is man-made, isn't really natural, but they have enough competence in that area that they can reach and learn whatever they choose to do. So it's all about from the beginning, from in utero, when they're growing and developing in those precious 9 months in the mother's womb, and then how they enter this world, and then those first couple of years of how we're helping them understand and regulate this three-dimensional world, at the same time honoring and respecting their essence, their spirit, their soul, and all of that. That's the whole child. And even though I focus on speech and language, I don't negate the fact that motor skills are driving this as well. Because we don't just have this cognition or this linguistic base and start talking, that we actually have oral motor skills that correlate with speech and language development, that are also then embedded in how well they chew and how well they swallow. And all of these developmental areas are in sync with one another. But that's a lot of detail. That's 30 plus years of study and practice and diving deep into the science and getting really geeky about a lot of different things. But I have felt blessed to really know where to dive deep and how to change my perspective in helping me serve my families that I have served in my private practice. And now being able to reach a larger community to help moms and dads really understand that prevention is key, that we as human beings are very, very adaptable, very malleable. We call it neuroplasticity, and that it's shaping and reshaping. And unfortunately, the systems that we send our kids into, the educational system, the medical community, they have developed over the last 50 years, creating these boxes or these categories that I think are very limiting. And it's interesting that this whole COVID lockdown distancing has forced us to say, wow, maybe these systems that we've developed and started to rely on aren't quite as necessary as we once thought. And maybe if we bring it back to some basics and really look at what early development is and what education should be, that it should be the whole child, and it should be outside and inside. It should be big picture and little picture, and something that I've always talked about learning from the top down and the bottom up, that gestalt, that whole language, the whole open-ended inquiry. At the same time is, what about the building blocks? What about the simplicity? What about the sequential patterns about development? And so my purpose is to come in here and really help inspire parents to ask more questions, to perhaps clear the clutter, to make it more concrete, at the same time that they're constantly looking at the big picture and say, how does, for example, crawling or cooing and babbling, those building blocks, help the child on the other side, help with synchronicity and organization, and help kids learn how to prioritize. How do those building blocks speak to conversational skills and speak to being able to take these circle of communication episodes where a 3 and a 4-year-old should be able to have a conversation? Might change topics a little more than you or I would, but that they understand. And it's because they have these building blocks that they went through that are important and necessary to have this bigger holistic being. So really focusing on parents who are open to looking at opportunities to learn, organization of their daily life for their child to understand how this environment works, to being present and purposeful and playful, to being energized, and to being able to experience with the child how these developmental steps, these building blocks, will help them develop into this bigger whole being. And then to understand the introduction of what novelty means and how the brain learns to learn, and there has to be some change. That these novice pieces of information, even though especially a very, very young child likes routines, like repetition, but at the same time, how the brain really learns to learn is that we have to change it up once in a while. And what's that kind of rhythm? What neuroscience has taught us is that it's an 80-20 balance, that they need a lot of positive reinforcement, that they need repetition to make it automatic. That, one of the examples I always give families is when a child is about 4 or 5 and they're learning how to tie their shoe, they use 10,000 neurons to try to organize the laces, and their tongue sticks out and they're squirming and they're moving and they're making these bunny laces. And then after 100 tries or 1,000 tries, they can start to tie their shoe in the dark and they don't even think about it. They can have a conversation or chew gum at the same time as tying their shoe. When once it took thousands of neurons to try to fire together with this right hemisphere and this left hemisphere and these strings and inside out and looping around. all the way down to the end of your foot, which again, that's a long neural pathway to get to the organization of it. And in future videos, I'll talk about the balance between nature and nurture and how that continues to be incredibly important in this modern world. So prevention, understand, moms and dads, that we need the top down. So we need the big picture. They need the big story. They need to be able to run around outside. They need to be able to run around and be free spirited at the same time that we need that structure and that routine, and that there's a reason why kids move through cooing and babbling and first words and then 2-word utterances. That's why they can follow 1-step directions and then 2-step directions. And that's why it's important that they are encouraged to crawl and to move about on all 4 as they're wiring their neurological system and as they're moving up into this 3-dimensional world, standing on their feet, and then they begin to walk aided, and then they begin to walk and run, and it's a process. So we need these building blocks from the bottom up, but we also need these big opportunities and that free flowing. So prevention is understanding, mom and dad, that every month, every year is important, and that you can take this information and apply it and use it in real time, and then come back and ask more questions. But that you, mom and dad, took on this responsibility, and I want you to know that you're not alone, no matter what the schools do or the medical community, like I said, or the extended community at large, that you as a family, as a parent, are not alone, and that we together exploring what the possibilities are for your child and who she or he is thriving to be, that we take it step by step at the same time that we back up every once in a while and say, you know what? The kid is in a pretty good groove right here. Let him kind of spread his wings and see what he can do. So there's that balance. And so I just want you to think about this week about prevention, looking at opportunity, being present, being engaged and eager, and being able to really supply some novelty, because that's where the neurological development really thrives. Speaking to the parents who are incredibly motivated, knowing that they can do this, that there's so much natural instinct, but at the same time to be informed, to be knowledgeable, to be aware of what they can do to counterbalance this modern world that we're living, so your child can be thriving on the other side, knowing that their child just needs that support and the direction and what to pay attention to, what not to pay attention to, and how to clear up some of the clutter and the uncertainty, and to really parent with confidence. It's about loving and supporting your child at the same time to have these individual pieces of information of what is happening at the neurological level, helping your child line up and staying on track and developing into the best version of themselves. Let me know if you have any questions. You can DM me. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and I'm really, really excited to do this for all of you. And let me know what you need, and we'll go in that direction. Okay, take care. Happy Tuesday. Talking Toddler on Tuesday. Erin Higher Learning. Take care. Bye.